The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. Good morning and welcome. Before we do anything else today, I want to make you aware of the fact that today is the Great American Shakeout. You might be participating where you are. I can tell you that we're participating here in this building and on this show. So at some point, I'm told during the show this morning, we will hear warning sirens go off. I will be notified through my earpiece because we're supposed to be in a soundproof booth, so we may not actually hear it. But I will be notified that it is time to duck and cover. I will take cover underneath my desk, as will whatever guest I may or may not have on the show at that time. Then we will cut to some other programming for you, and my guest and I will stay until the all clear for the duck and cover. We will then be evacuating the building. We'll be outside while you watch something else. I'm sure Emily has something lined up really spectacular and fabulous for you. And then we will come back as soon as we've been given the all clear to return to the building. And we are participating because it's important to rehearse these things. And it's a reminder to all of you at home and to me, my husband and my son and I talked about this last night, that we need to rehearse. We know that it's beneficial to rehearse. You get that memory in your body of, okay, I know what it is that I'm supposed to do. Even if your brain goes on the fritz in an emergency, your body will remember how to do that. Really important. It's the reason why schools do fire drills and other kinds of drills. And I know that everybody thinks, oh, well, Los Angeles, of course you do shakeout drills there. But the truth of the matter is that most of the world does have earthquakes. Maybe they don't have them at the frequency that they do in Los Angeles, but it's a really good thing to talk about what to do in an earthquake with our kids and to practice it when you're in different rooms. You can make it fun. It doesn't have to be terrifying. We never want to scare kids, but giving them that sense memory, if you will, of, okay, I know what to do. When my son was very, very young, we would practice and be in different rooms, because if you're in the kitchen, where you're going to go to take cover is going to be different than if you're in the bathroom, right? So practice these kinds of drills. It's a big reminder to all of us today. Find some time today to talk to your child about, or just to demonstrate it. For those of you who have children whose receptive language is something that you're working on and it's not quite there, you can demonstrate it. Make it fun though, all right? So you'll see at some point we're going to shake here today. It'll be really, really fun. Now, we're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. Whether you are a parent, teacher, practitioner working with a child who is on the autism spectrum to create progress, or you yourself are on the spectrum, we want to be a resource to you and help you to find what you need to find on this journey. So the entire show is meant to be interactive. We welcome your input. We are thrilled when you guys write in. Emily's going to show you some of the different ways that you can watch the show and some of the different ways that you can interact with us. I'm going to remind you that if you go to www.autism-live.com, that's one of the ways that you can watch the show live. You can also watch it live on YouTube now. But if you go to autism-live.com, there are more features there. Like you can check out the blog, and we've got some great guest blogs coming up. So check out the blog there, but also you'll see that there's a computer screen. You can click on the little arrow there there, it will show the most recent episode or the live show there. Then there's the white box next to it, and that's your opportunity to interact in a really easy, automatic way. Just put your cursor there, type away whatever you want, hit enter, and it shows up on my screen. And if you're writing in during the live show, you and I can interact, and you can ask our guests questions in real time. It's a really easy way to interact. There is no login. You're not having to put any of your personal information in there. There's no cost for it. Nobody even asks for a credit card, right? Which I absolutely love. Now, the downside of that is that I don't know who you are. And so if there's something you want me to get back to you about, you've got to put information in there that allows me to get back to you directly. Otherwise, we'll just talk about it on the show, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. By the way, I have a way of editing out your personal information so that I don't disclose it to the rest of the audience. So we like to keep your anonymity for you. We know that that's important. All right. Having said all of that, I want to remind you always at the top of the show that I am not an expert in autism at all. I'm a parent. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He is now 10, almost 10.5, and doing remarkably well. And I attribute that to the fact that we got great help. We were introduced by other parents to great resources. We got early intervention for my son, and he is doing remarkably well. And that I have to pay forward. So that's why I'm here, to pay that forward. So please reach out, ask us when you need something. Let us know when you just need that little pick-me-up, right? Sometimes on this journey, it feels like you're all alone and nobody gets it. Why does nobody get it, right? But the truth of the matter is that a lot of people get it. Everybody's circumstances are different, but still a lot of people get it, and they have compassion for you. And I think even more exciting, there are people out there who are passionate about helping you. So let us help you get hooked up to resources that you may not know about, but tell us what you need. Tell us what you need, and then we'll continue from there. All right. We like to start every morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out what in the hey nani nani are these experts talking about. Now, this week, we've really delved into the jargon. I mean, get out the BS meter. Because we're taking on the insurance jargon. Oh, I know. Cringe for me, would you? But again, we need to know what these terms mean, because it translates into funding to get us the help that we need. And that, my friends, is all important. So if you haven't already been dealing with insurance, you're going to at some point, and these terms, I just about cry when I see these. So we had one of our experts give us the actual definitions, and then we've pared them down into something that maybe we can get our heads wrapped around. So today's term is out-of-pocket maximums. And this can be very confusing, right? It sounds like what it is, but let's take a closer look at what this actually means for insurance. Out-of-pocket maximum is the maximum amount a family has to pay out of their pocket. That's why it's out-of-pocket maximum in co-pays and co-insurance before the medical plan starts paying everything for the rest of the year at 100%. So when you're looking at this, I think the most important part for me was that there's lifetime out-of-pocket and there's yearly out-of-pocket. And what we're talking about is a yearly out-of-pocket here. So our watered down version of this is the highest amount of money you're responsible for in a given year. So if you're looking at, we're getting close to the end of the year already, and you're looking at 2014, and in a little while we're going to have Julie Kornack visiting us talking about Affordable Health Care Act and looking at those exchanges to figure out what you're going to do about it. This is something you're really going to want to be aware of, this out-of-pocket maximum. How much do I have to pay in co-payment? How much do I have to pay in terms of a deductible? But what's my out-of-pocket maximum? So if you're looking at the budget for next year, and we had somebody who wrote in, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, and said that they had an out-of-pocket maximum of $11,000, which I know I hear that and and I just want to weep, right? But her point was, when I pay that $11,000, then we get the rest of the year for free. And if I know, okay, I got to budget $11,000, I got to find funding, I got to get a grant for $11,000, I got to have a fundraiser for $11,000, but I know that's the amount that I got to cover in order for my kid to get a year's worth of intensive ABA therapy. It sounds scary, it sounds overwhelming, but it's doable. I think it's really important that we all, as we're looking at the exchange, look at this number and see if it's something that's doable. We'll talk about in subsequent shows how we raise that $11,000, some of the different ideas that people have had over time to make that possible. But if it's $11,000 for your child to get $130,000 worth of ABA therapy, that parent wrote in that it's worth it, and I can tell you, I believe that it's worth it as well. But important to know the numbers. We have to be able to look at the numbers and go, all right, that's what we're talking about. So this number is going to be of huge importance to you, I guarantee you, this year and next year, out-of-pocket maximum. Okay, we always have a question of the day for you that we hope that you'll interact with us either on Twitter or Facebook. We'll be checking in a little bit later on Facebook to see what you guys wrote. How will the Affordable Health Care Act affect you in January of 2014? And again, Julie Kornack's going to be here breaking it down for us, because even I'm, a little overwhelmed. I went to go on the exchange and I couldn't get on. There were so many people. So I'm looking forward to Julie breaking this down for us. I hope that you will write in, and if you have questions about it, you can also write in now to Julie Kornack, or you can write it on the Facebook channel, on our Facebook page. All right, we always have a topic of the week, and yes, you guessed it, our topic this entire week is insurance. But it's one of those things, I think it's a lot like IEP. We hear these terms and we go, right? I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to do it. But the truth of the matter is, if we get a good IEP and we get a good insurance plan and it's working for us, it makes all the difference. So yeah, there's a little bit of trepidation, but it's because it's an unknown territory a lot of the time for all of us. So we're going to try to put more information into our insurance tool belt so that we can make the right choices for our family and for ourselves. So we'll be talking about that a lot today, but we've got a really exciting show for you planned today. Some of the different things that we have going on today. Matt Asner is going to be joining with us in just a few minutes. He is from Autism Speaks, but more importantly, he is an autism dad and a remarkable man. So he's going to be here with us. As I mentioned before, Julie Kornack is going to be with us at about 10:45. She's a policy analyst, and she is going to be breaking down the Obamacare Affordable Health Care Act and letting us know what we want to consider when we go on those exchanges, what to look for to help us to know whether ABA is going to be covered in the different plans. And then in the second hour, we've got a couple of exciting things happening for you. One of them, breaking it down with Angela Persicke. She is a board-certified behavior analyst. She is going to be here with us today talking about how we bully-proof our kids on the autism spectrum. We got a couple of great news stories for you today, and in fact, we're starting a new partnership today with the Autism Daily Newscast. So we're going to have a story from them every day starting today, and that will happen in the second hour. So stay tuned for that, because I think you'll find it fascinating. And an update about a school bus driver who's been fired in Florida for the way he dealt with one special needs child on the bus. And the way they found out was that it was videotaped by a young woman who is on the autism spectrum, whose mom taught her, if something's going on, you whip out your phone and you record it. And so as a result, the bus driver is fired. We're going to talk about that in the second hour. So stick with us. Big, exciting show. And don't forget, Great American Shakeout's coming. We'll let you know when it happens. Stick with us.
When Maddie was diagnosed, I'll be honest, I was very ignorant on what autism was. I knew that autism was basically something that hit boys at the age of 2 to 3 and shut down. And sometimes you think of the typical Rain Man movie. And with Maddie, she was doing all the same signs and symptoms of a typical child with autism spectrum disorder.
Stand up. She didn't even acknowledge us coming into the room. She had barely any eye contact. She didn't interact with her sisters. She didn't really do anything. She just basically lined up her toys, and that was about it. We have a team of 7 volunteers, or 8 now. We have 8 volunteers, including my husband and I. And I'm the team leader, and so I do all the curriculum and get everything ready each week.
Jana was downstairs until 11 o'clock at night working on curriculum, going through 2 different textbooks. And then we, as a group, meet on Monday nights, and we would go through what the curriculum was from Jana. And a lot of times we would go, well, how exactly do you do that? How do you sit her at the table and do this trial base? What Skills has done for us, it's taken that away from Jana trying to figure out the curriculum for one. She can go down, or even our laptop, and she can sit down, and through all these questions, it comes up with the different programs.
At least for me, it was a relief off my shoulders. I was worried that I might be missing something, missing a curriculum that maybe she needs to know, where Skills, they have every possible thing your child needs to know from 0 to 7. They have a program for that.
What noise is this? Good job!
Every program that we did with her, I knew it was specific for what she needed to learn. Because before Skills, it was a lot of, okay, well, is that really age appropriate for a 2-year-old? You know, because it's not generalized. It's anywhere from 0 to 7. This is what your child needs to know. In most manuals, you'll find. But for this, okay, yep, she should be learning this. And no, she's not 4 yet. She doesn't need to know that yet.
We are so fortunate that Jana was able to attend a conference put on by CARD that opened the door for Skills, and that there's no looking back for us.
We started using the program in November, and it seemed like by January something just clicked, and she has completely kind of came out of her fog that she was in for quite a while.
I have never read a documented case on any child that has not benefited anything from applied behavior analysis, and now with this new Skills and being, you know, like the E version of ABA, I can't imagine that it doing anything harmful to their child. It's nothing but exponential growth for us.
To see her now, it just blows us away. I mean, we call her our little miracle child because in 7 months' time, she has just blossomed into this normal, functioning child, and suddenly, we joke about it all the time, like suddenly we have twins.
If you're even thinking about doing it, do it. Because the absolute worst thing you can do is do nothing at all. And even if you use this program and it's just a single mom or a single dad working in the evenings with their child, this program is going to benefit them. It's going to show you where they are, it's going to show you where they need to go, and it's going to show you what skills and how to get there. It is an online book on how to help recover your child.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are joined live in the studio right now by Matt Asner. So thrilling to have you here.
Always thrilling to be here.
And I mentioned before that we know that at some point this morning we're going to have the Great American Shakeout. And when that happens...
I don't know, what does that mean?
Apparently they're supposed to do it all across the country, and it's a time for everybody to have a drill to practice earthquake skills, what we would do in an earthquake. So if that happens during our interview, you and I will get under the desk.
Really? Okay, I was going to get on the desk and start screaming. That's not what I should do?
That's what I would normally do. But no, we're supposed to get underneath the desk, and then there's a second alarm that will go off. At that point, we evacuate the building. But as soon as the alarm goes off and Matt and I go to get under the desk, we're going to break to something else. I think Emily's got a TED Talk to show you.
Did you bring some cards?
No, but you know what I brought you? I have a gift for you because you mentioned when we showed the Apple Crisp video the other day that you love Honeycrisp apples. Now, that's not just any Honeycrisp apple. That is an organic Honeycrisp apple from Trader Joe's.
And you know what? It feels perfect.
It is perfect. Trust me, we've been eating them all this week. They're amazing.
I'm going to save this for later, and I'm going to have it with my peanut butter.
There you go.
Okay.
And you know, when I was a teenager, there was a book that was out that said, it was a cartoon book that said, never eat anything bigger than your head. This almost qualifies. They're the biggest apples in the world.
I have a big head, so...
So you're covered. You're
yeah,
okay.
I've always had a big head.
I've had a big head, too. Are your kids big-headed kids, too?
Yes, they are, actually.
Yes, well, I think it's hereditary. So.
I think so, too. My dad, of course, he has a huge head.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, your dad is a little famous.
Yes, little.
Mr. Ed Asner.
Yes.
You have an illustrious family. And we invite you here to talk with us on a weekly basis because you're an autism dad. And we need more of the autism dad perspective. You also work for Autism Speaks.
I do.
You are the executive director of the Southern California, area for Autism Speaks.
Yes.
Which is much bigger than just Los Angeles.
It certainly is.
It is. Like Los Angeles isn't big enough.
Exactly.
And normally you're going to be here with us on Tuesdays, but
I got sick.
You were under the weather.
Yeah.
As so many people, Dr. Doreen Grandpichet was under the weather yesterday too, so you're in good company.
Did she have the ick? Did she have the...
I'm not sure. I haven't done the whole asking all the questions, but, you know, I had it the last 2 weeks. You know, it's going around. But until the shakeout happens, I mentioned this story earlier, and we wanted to have a little conversation about this. In the news yesterday, all over the place, about a Florida bus driver who was fired after a girl who was on the autism spectrum took out her phone on the bus and videotaped what he was doing to another young man who was on the bus. I had an opportunity to see the video. I was talking to Matt about this. It's very disturbing. You can see it online, but I didn't particularly want to show it because it's disturbing. He's yelling profanity at the young person and takes the seatbelt, and while he's yelling at him and saying inappropriate words, ties his hands together with the seatbelt.
Binds him with the seatbelt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really disturbing. And you were saying this is a story that we see often.
Happens all the time. And I really believe it's because we have a lack of training.
Yeah.
We have a lack of training. We're employing people to take care of our children, and they're not trained.
Yeah.
And they're just basically drivers.
Yeah.
And it's a problem, you know, and you'll see it throughout the country. It's something that awareness is everything.
Yeah.
You know, and training is awareness. And if you don't train these people, I don't know who these people are, and I don't think the bus company really knows who they are because they don't test them under stress, under duress, and it's stressful. Driving a busload of children with autism, I'm sure, can be a little stressful.
Absolutely.
But you know, you've got to know how to handle it. You got to know what's right. You got to know what's wrong. And unfortunately, this is something we see all the time, not just on buses, but in classrooms.
Yes.
And you know, you hear about kids being locked up in closets.
Yeah.
It's an awful thing.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we're training our people the way we should.
Yeah.
You know, I took part in a training for Glendale PD, and it was wonderful. I mean, you know, it was great. Kate Mobius, who's a great autism mom and a supporter of Autism Speaks, and just a great advocate, you know, for her children and other children. She did some work with Autism Speaks on a training program, and so she's continued it. And the last one was with Glendale PD, and they were wonderful. They wanted to learn, they wanted to understand, and you see when you go through the training, you see this kind of look of recognition and oh yeah, oh wow, you know, and you know half of them had interaction with children or adults with autism, and you know, it just kind of all of a sudden everything starts registering when you go through the training, and it's so important, you know. And a lot of people think, oh well, you know, everyone knows what autism is. Why, you know, why do we need that? But we need that because of stories like this.
Absolutely.
You know, because people don't understand what autism is.
absolutely. And I think it's a really important point that training needs to happen and that awareness needs to happen. I have to talk about from the parent end, though, you know, that the mom, who is Lee Torino, had taught her daughter, who is 18 years old, to use her phone if something was happening.
Incredible.
To document it. And I thought, what an amazing thing. We just got my son a phone, and he uses his phone all the time, but it hadn't occurred to
How old
me.
is your son?
10, I
Oh,
know.
wow. Oh, my gosh.
Well, I mean, in light of the things going on in the world.
No, I know. My son's 11. I can't imagine him.
You know, I had some trepidation about it,
Yeah.
but I thought, well, you know, I'm going to try it and see. He's been really responsible with
That's
it
great.
because anytime that he wasn't, it went away
Yeah.
for a period of time. Not as a punishment, but it just disappeared.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Just
now, is it
wasn't-
an iPhone?
It's an iPhone.
Oh, wow.
It is an iPhone. And yeah, I know. I wouldn't, if you had asked me when he was 5 or 8 about kids who are 10 and have phones, I would have said, now that's ridiculous, right? But in light of things going on in the world, we made the choice for his 10th birthday that, you know, with conditions, and I've got all kinds of safety things on it so that he can't call
Right.
Uganda. Because my kid would.
Right.
And there have been a couple of issues. I will be honest, there have been a couple of issues. But, you know, I do think of it as a safety thing. They have, you know, if something happens and the child is lost, you can locate where the phone is. That doesn't necessarily mean where the child is, right?
That's actually that's an amazing function.
Yes.
Yeah, that is incredible.
So, and sometimes that can tell, you know, where, like, I hate to be the doomster here, but it can tell the last place that the child was, you know. I don't think of it as a catch-all, but it also provides them with an opportunity to document things.
Yeah.
And at his school, they're not allowed to have a phone with them unless it's concealed. It's almost like a
Really?
weapon. Yes. If the rule is that if a teacher or an administrator sees the phone, they get to confiscate it, but you can have a phone if it's concealed.
It just has to be put away during the day.
Put away.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel a level of comfort with that. And then last night, seeing this, I thought, okay, we're going to talk a little bit about if something bad happens. I think he, you know, and
So you had that discussion? You had
did have that discussion, and he kind of was, I don't know that he had really put it in this term, but he already, there was a time when I was dropping my niece off at the airport, and we were getting a lot of feedback from the little airport guy on the bicycle, and my son
sure.
videotaped that and said, I've got a videotape of this, you know, you're not being nice to my mom. So I think he might have already gotten it, but we hadn't actually spoken about it before.
And did he make an issue of it with the guy?
Yeah, he was on the videotape. You can hear him saying, I'm videotaping this and you're not being nice to my mom.
And see, okay, here we go. So
Yeah.
that's a great example of the guy that's walking around policing the area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wonder if he's had any training, you know, on autism, because, you know, my dad was stopped by the cops once.
Really?
And with my brother in the back seat.
Oh.
And and I know I'm kind of segueing away from phones. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We're talking about safety.
You know, he was stopped by the cops. He was probably speeding or something, and pulled over and did everything he was supposed to do. My brother's in the back seat, and the cop walks up to the car, and my brother starts berating the officer, saying, "Do you understand what you're doing? Do you know who you stopped? Do you understand that?" And you know, my dad's like, "Oh no."
Not what you want to hear. But was the cop at least understanding about it?
He didn't understand why this 6-foot tall guy in the back seat was, you know, berating him, and
Right.
he was an adult. I mean, he was my
Right.
brother was an adult, and it just, you know, he doesn't have an editor in his,
Yeah.
inside of him. And had the cop had some training on autism, he might have recognized it right away,
Yeah.
and that might have been the disarming episode there, rather than my dad having to explain everything, you know, the way he did.
Wow. Well, I've got a story about when we were stopped, but let's take a quick break first, and then we'll
And
come
I got
back.
another one, too.
Okay, good. We're going to talk more with Matt Asner, and you can be writing in questions right now, too, if you have comments about this story, about what we're talking about. So stick with us. We'll be back unless there's a shakeout. Stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
intensity of
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here with Matt Asner and his apple the size of his head. We're getting ready for the Great American Shakeout, which could happen at any moment now. And during the break, we were talking about being in earthquakes, and you were saying you've been in a couple of the big ones.
Well, I've been in all of them in California, and the one in '94 was just terrifying. I mean, as a matter of fact, I'm thinking about it right now, and I'm thinking, you know, it was awful. I mean, it was. I would call it the embodiment of violence. You know, it was. I was on the third story of an apartment building and was shaken out of bed, and everything in my place broke. Everything.
Wow.
And my wife at the time, her leg was cut open by a television that flew across the room.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. And then basically after the earthquake, everyone from the apartment building, it was a considerable amount of people. It was one of those big apartment buildings on Riverside. Everyone went and stood on the street for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it was like so third world. It was very bizarre.
Yeah.
It's a very odd thing.
Well, and imagine if you had your son during that.
I can't, actually. I mean, it was, thank God there were no kids, because I was such a mess.
Yeah.
It's one of the only times in my life that I think I've ever whimpered. I actually understood that word after that earthquake.
Yeah.
You know, to whimper. You know, it was a verb that I'd never understood before, but now, you know.
I mean, I've been in some emergencies in my life, but every time I see an emergency now, or I see something, you know, acts of God, we see the tsunamis and things like that, I put it through the filter of, I have a child with autism, and where would my child be in this event, and where would I be, and how would I keep that child safe?
Yeah.
And thinking about who are the parents that were on the ground, you know, when Haiti, the earthquake happened in Haiti.
Oh, yeah.
And how devastating it was. And so many of us were saying, okay, it's devastating for everybody, but how are they dealing with the kids with autism?
Yeah, no, I don't know what, I honestly, I mean, when I go, hopefully I'll never go through it, but if I ever do, I'll know. But I think you kick in. I just think you kick in. I think you know, you're trained enough in life to know that you're a dad or you're a mom, and that switch goes off.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, they're more important than I am. So, you know, you click and you say, okay, how am I going to protect everyone? How am I going to get everyone to safety? And, you know, I didn't know it was an earthquake when it was happening in '94. I am, you know, a bit of a romantic, so I guess you could call it that. But I you know, was woken out of, you know, I was shaken out of the bed, and all of a sudden I looked outside the window, and there were blue flashes going off, you know, outside, and I was like, oh, what? I thought we were being attacked. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And I had no, I did not think it was an earthquake. I thought it was something, you know.
And irony, I know people who were in the towers in 9/11, and they thought it was an earthquake. It didn't occur to them that they were being attacked. They thought it was an earthquake.
Until they turned on the radio.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So we were talking about safety.
Yes, we were talking about safety and how important it is to keep our kids safe, and that's why we're all participating in the shakeout, so that we keep ourselves safe and hopefully impart that information to our kids. But we were also talking about this Florida bus driver who has now been fired, and I'm glad that that was swift and that they didn't drag that out. This gentleman deserved to be fired. I don't think
without a doubt.
Yeah, I don't think anybody could have, but you know, in other cases we've seen, well, we're going to get all the information.
He's on leave.
Right.
You know.
The videotape was pretty succinct. There was a lot of behavior that shouldn't have been allowed again. Lee Torino, her daughter, she taught her daughter how to use the phone. She was an 18-year-old. She videotaped the bus driver abusing a 20-year-old with special needs. Very, very devastating. The company who owns the contract and the buses is Metro Mobility. They're part of Palm Tran in Florida. They have vowed to give drivers better training, something that we've talked about.
So you know something good's coming out of this.
Yes, including sensitivity training. Now, on the news, they reported that they were going to start that immediately, sensitivity training. And I said, you know, sensitivity training is essential. Let's not leave that off the table. But the idea, as you were saying before, the idea that you can say to somebody, here's the keys to a bus, and we know that you know how to drive the bus, you got a license to do that. Now we're going to pack it full of kids. Let's not even say special need kids.
Right. Any kid. And we're not going to give you any training on how to deal with challenging behavior. Now, good luck and make sure you keep them all safe.
Yeah. And let us know if anything goes on, or we'll just wait to see if somebody's smart enough to videotape you not doing it right.
Exactly.
I think it's a recipe for disaster. And we've said this before on the show many times.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. And anybody who interacts with kids in any way should get basic training in dealing with challenging behavior. Not even talking about autism. Let's get some challenging behavior training on board for these people.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And, you know, I mean, one of the issues, you know, I think that we have to talk about as well is that some of these bus drivers, we're not talking about challenging behaviors at all. We're talking about a child that's very quiet, who sits on the bus and who gets lost.
Yeah.
So I mean, that happened to my kid. You know, we had, I think like probably the second year he was taking the bus, he had a new bus driver. First day of school, they pick him up, they take him to school. No incident really, but, and then they pick him up after school, and we're talking about September, very hot out. And the bus driver didn't show up, and he disappeared. And he has my kid in the bus. And, you know, so his mom called me and said, you know, Will didn't get dropped off. Will didn't get dropped off. And so the calls to the bus company started, and, well, we don't know where they are. We don't know where they are. And you're sitting there going, well, what do you mean you don't know where they are? Where are they? And, well, we can't reach the bus driver. So it's like you sit there and start thinking, okay, so what happened? So there's been a wreck on the freeway. You know, the bus driver's unconscious. You start going through all this in your head. And basically what happened was, my son was very quiet at the time, did not have a lot of speech at the time, and was sitting on the bus, very quiet, fell asleep, and missed his stop, did not have the communication capacity to communicate with the driver and let him know, you missed my stop, can you take me back, please? And the bus driver, you know, God knows what he did. I mean, he probably went out and did something he probably shouldn't do. Visited a friend somewhere. I have no idea.
Stop for coffee and pie.
I don't know, but he actually went to Malibu and back.
Oh my goodness!
In the bus, and then, you know, ended up finally looking in the back seat, going, oh no, you know, there's a kid back there, and you know, 3 hours later, dropped him off at home, sweaty, dehydrated, didn't buy him any drinks. He had, you know, gone to the bathroom, you know, and so, I mean, it was awful.
And that wasn't on the news.
You see, it wasn't on the news.
And it could have been.
Yeah.
And you could have lawyered up, right? But I'm just saying, you could have. It would have been within your rights to do that. But I'm wondering how many of these cases we don't hear about, but we do hear about on a monthly basis something along this line. And of course,
let me just add something.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, we're in October, so I'm sure people are kind of in the rhythm of the school year. But in the beginning of the school year, if your child is taking the bus, it's kind of rare here, I guess, in the LA area. But unless your child goes to a school outside of the district,
right?
If your child takes the bus, get to know that bus driver, get to know the bus coordinator. And talk to them and say, you know, this is who I am, this is, you know, and get their number, make sure you know exactly who to call if your child does not show up, and just make sure that you know the bus driver, that you trust the bus driver,
Those are all important things to do. Those are things that, because it's important to talk about what's within our power.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you feel so powerless and helpless, you know, putting your child on a bus and trusting. It's a big leap of faith. It's scary. It's very scary. I don't have to do that. You know, we drop off and pick up. But I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. And of course, we know that there are some great bus drivers out there, but you still, if you don't have training on how to deal with this, I remember very early on as a parent saying, I am ill-equipped. I don't know how to deal with this behavior. Who is going to help me? And very loudly yelling that. I would assume that bus drivers and teachers, if somebody said, hey, we want to help you to deal with this, that they would be excited to learn about it.
I would think so.
Because who wants to go to work and have that pit in your stomach of, I don't know if I can keep these kids safe? The bus driver, not an excuse at all, but the bus driver in the case said that this child it was a young man, 20 years old, kept trying to open the door, and that was his reason for tying with a seatbelt. That's not an excuse.
There's always a better way.
Exactly. Exactly. If there's a safety issue, you report it, and you know, it should get dealt with. But hopefully, something good will come from this, and they will get the sensitivity training. And I'm hoping the challenging behavior intervention to know how to deal with these kinds of things and open a dialogue so that this kind of thing doesn't have to continue to happen.
But isn't it interesting, Shannon? Isn't it interesting how cell phones have completely changed everything?
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
Everything. And I hope that more people are a little bit afraid, because and of course, one of your colleagues, Candy Spitz from Autism Speaks, commented on this and said, you know, it'd be great to have cameras on the buses. We were talking about that the other day, maybe cameras in the classrooms, or the two-way mirrors for every classroom with kids for special needs. I
believe in cameras.
I believe in cameras too. I just think in this economy, it's a hard sell. To get a district to put cameras in is a hard sell.
I'm sorry. They just bought all these iPads that I don't know what's going on with that.
I'm on your side.
Can you tell me what's going on with that?
With all the iPads? Well,
then they pulled them back.
Oh, I didn't know they pulled them back.
Because I guess kids were hacking them, or parents were. I don't know. You know, and it's a problematic, you know, thing. I'm still unsure about that whole plan. I think it's smart. It's a smart thing to do. Yeah. But it concerns me the way they handled it.
Well, I'm concerned about how they spend the money, and I would like to see us have the money to have technology and have it so that the kids take care of the technology, and I personally would like to see the cameras too. I just don't see the school districts being willing to do that. It leaves them open to lawsuits.
Well, of course.
Right?
I think there's no. What kind of policy are they going to have with a camera in the classroom? Right. You know. Right. So.
But the phones kind of circumvents the whole thing. If we've got kids who are taking video, and Stuart Chaffetz, whose child, he stuck the recorder in his pocket and sent him off in New Jersey.
Right. In New Jersey.
And make a difference.
It's an awful story.
Oh, isn't it?
Awful.
So sad. But, you know, this is one way that we can fight back and know what's happening. It's terrible that it has to come to that. But
it is, but we live in an age where, thank God, we can do that. I mean, as a parent, I mean, you got to think of it as a parent. And if I thought my child was having a problem in school or was being harassed in some way, and I could check that out, I would. You know,
absolutely.
I would definitely do that.
It's disappointing to me that you can very easily, for under $100, buy a camera that you can set up so that you can at home watch your dog and what they're doing in your home.
Don't get me started.
But we can't do that with our kids.
No, I mean, and I feel the same way about chips. It's like.
What do you mean? What, you're talking about the chips that you eat or the chips that you implant?
This is going to get controversial, but no, I mean, my feeling is this. If your kid's a runner and you're worried about your child, you should be able to have a chip implanted in your child.
I don't disagree. Is that controversial?
I don't know. When I was doing Autism America, I argued with Nick about this. And he was like, well, it's a violation of privacy. And I said, why? Well, what if someone gets that information? How are they going to get that information?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. And my feeling is, if I know where my child is,
right, and
there's no way that's going to alter, you know, that's going to be altered. It's inside of him. You know, he can't take a bracelet off. He can't do that. There's nothing on his body that he can rip out or take off. It's in him.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's probably the only solution that a lot of these families have.
Yeah.
And my feeling is, if you have, you know, and my son was almost abducted once, and it was one of the worst days of my life. And I thought about this after that. I thought, you know, okay, if there was, you know, God forbid it happened. Okay, I stopped that it didn't happen. But God forbid it had happened, and I kept ruminating on that. I kept thinking, oh, you know, and it made me physically ill. I just had a difficult time with it. What if there's a chip that you could put inside your child, and it can give the police, you know, in half an hour they can have your child.
Yeah.
You know, before anything really horrific happens, they can have your child. And I thought to myself, I would do that in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, there's no decision-making process whatsoever involved in that at all.
Yeah.
And you're bringing up, you know, the reason I brought that up is because you're bringing up dogs.
Yeah.
And
we chip our dogs.
And we chip our dogs. And why do we chip our dogs? We chip our dogs to run away.
Yeah.
Why people get upset?
Gee, I don't either. That doesn't seem controversial to me at all. No, I'm sorry,
I
can't.
don't know. Maybe your audience can write in and say something about that.
Absolutely. Because Jem, he eloped, but we got the running under control fairly quickly. But I still am concerned. I mean, he is a young man, and, you know, he is a little trusting. And
well, that's the thing. That's the thing for me. You know, Will, he ended up going. Do we have a little time?
Until the shakeout, we have a couple of minutes, and we also have a question that somebody wrote in too.
Okay, do you want to do the question, and then I'll tell the story?
You know what? It froze, so we got to back out. So we have to go to break anyway. Yes, we're a break. All right.
Okay.
We froze.
Oh, we froze.
Welcome back. We are not shaking yet, but we are here with the fabulous Matt Asner. And you guys had some questions. We've only got Matt for a couple of more minutes. One question was, what would be your suggestion for discipline for the bus driver because of lack of knowledge? I want to point out that bus driver, it was beyond lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
If you watch the video, you'll see very clearly it's not just lack of knowledge. He's swearing at the child, being very physically abusive. Yeah, in that case, it's more than lack of knowledge. I think when it is lack of knowledge, they generally, you know, give a warning, and I would hope they would give training.
Yeah, and my feeling is this guy lost his job. He's going to have charges pressed against him.
Yeah,
he's going to face some charges. He's going to be punished. If someone with a lack of knowledge, like you said, I think getting him knowledge in some way. So I think the bus company, you know, have to be held accountable as well, because they hired the guy.
Absolutely.
So, and he works for them. So
that's right.
He's, you know, they're going to have to do something about it.
Here's a new one that just came in. I completely agree with Mr. Asner with 2 exclamation points. Why is the safety of our animals more important than our beloved kids? My 5-year-old son is an eloper, and I've been saying if only he could have a chip implanted for years. Bravo, Mr. Asner.
Oh, thank you.
We got a fan there.
Thank you.
Another person says, it's hard enough to get trained people to work with our children. Why go to this extreme? I'm assuming that you mean the cameras, putting cameras everywhere, and scare those off who do work with our kids. You want to take that?
Yeah, I would say that that's the point of the cameras. You know, we want to catch people in the act, right? You know, we want to make sure that we understand who's watching our children and who's responsible for our children, and have a sense of security about that.
Yeah.
And believe me, if someone knows there's a camera there, they're not going to do what they're going to do if there's a camera. You know, my feeling is, put the cameras in the classroom. I have no problem with a camera in a classroom.
Me too.
None.
And my feeling is, as a former teacher, the good people who are doing good work with your kids, they don't mind having a camera. They're not thrilled to have a camera. Yeah. They're not afraid of it at all. It won't prevent them. They'll be like, yay, there's a camera.
And I would even go further and say, I would love a link to my son's classroom so I could watch what they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but
yeah, then they get into all the privacy.
But once again, we talk about dogs.
Exactly.
And there's these crazy doggy daycare places where you can actually watch your dog while you're at work.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
What are we doing? What are we doing here?
Well, I'm sure I don't know. Hello, Matt and Shannon. I'm an adult on the autism spectrum. I have Asperger's syndrome. What do you believe would be a great resource for helping people on the autism spectrum wanting to transition to adulthood? Also, what do you think about how the media portrays autism/Asperger's?
Okay. Well, there's, and while it's not a new issue, it's relatively an issue that's really important, a new issue that's really important. And I would say, that everyone is coming up with transition programs. You should check out the Help Group. They have a great transition program. There's one at Cal State Northridge that I think is really progressive and interesting. There's CIP, College Internship Program. There's Exceptional Minds. Those kind of programs are really great at helping these kids transition into finding employment, because employment's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
We're talking about depending on who you listen to, 90% unemployment, excuse me.
You just did a town hall about this.
Yeah, we did. We did a town hall at UCLA, and there are some great companies that are doing some really innovative things and hiring people with ASDs, and they're not only doing well, they're seeing a lot of growth because of that, as a result of doing that.
Yeah, there's a new study, in fact, that we're going to be talking about next week. Thorkild Sohn, from a Danish gentleman who has been trying to do this, specifically hire more people on the autism spectrum. And they've done a program in Delaware, I believe it is. Yeah. And some studies have come out. It's really incredible. We're going to be talking about that next week on the show.
And I think and to this guy's question, there are great programs. You got to look on. We have a resource guide online. You should look at that.
Yes, Autism Speaks.
AutismSpeaks.org. And but I think we're transitioning into a period of time where that's going to become more and more important.
Yes,
and I think employers certainly need to figure out that these people are not unemployable. They're highly employable, and I think that's a transition we have to make.
Absolutely. So. And then really quickly, because we're almost out of time, how the media portrays autism, Asperger's, how do you feel?
Hit and miss. Hit and miss. I think The Bridge, I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh, of course. We have Alex on the show all the time, and he's their consultant.
He's a consultant, and I'm telling you right now, we're honoring Chuck Saftler at the Blue Jean Ball. I think that's one of the best portrayals I've ever seen in my life of someone on the spectrum. Yeah. And here's the reason why. Do I have a little bit of time here?
Yeah, a minute.
A minute? Yeah. Okay, I have a minute. No, it's very simple. The whole thing is, it's who she is.
Yes.
It's not what she is. It's who she is. And that's what matters.
And we're talking about the lead character on The Bridge, played by Diana Kruger.
Yeah, and you see this woman the way she is. And she's in a job. It's just a great... look, I mean, the show is not for everyone. It's a very hard-hitting show.
Yes.
Very hard to watch in some places.
Yes.
But to see this woman who's employed, who has a life, who has her problems, but, she's getting through, and the relationship with the chief, just there's just beautiful moments of understanding.
It's very complex and
it's just
a lot of depth.
Very happy with that. Parenthood, great, great. Max is an amazing actor.
Isn't he?
I think they do incredible stuff with that. Yeah. Incredible stuff.
And again, it's just part of the life. It isn't the whole focus.
Exactly.
Which is what I love about it.
No, and that's what it should be.
Yes. Because that's what it is.
Exactly.
And of course, Jason Katims knows that because
but he lives it.
He lives it. He's the executive producer of Parenthood, and he lives it.
But I would say hit and miss. Yeah. I would say there are also, portrayals on TV where you just kind of scratch your head and go,
And go, why didn't they hire a consultant?
Exactly.
Is what I always say. There are consultants. Why?
Exactly.
And I think that's why The Bridge works. They've hired Alex Plank from WrongPlanet.net. He's a regular here on the show. And he is there on a daily basis and consults with Diana Kruger. And that's, I think, why it's so good.
I agree. And also, you've got people who are working on the show and who are responsible for getting that show on on the air every week who are deeply involved in autism, and I think that says a lot.
It does. We appreciate that. And we appreciate you. You're going to be back on Tuesday. Yeah. And on Tuesday, you've promised to tell the story of what happened with your child when he was almost abducted.
I will.
So we'll look forward, look forward, that's the wrong phrase, but we'll wait with bated breath to hear about that on Tuesday. And thank God he wasn't abducted.
Thank God is right.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Have a great weekend. We're going to welcome you back on Tuesday. We are going to take a break now, and we'll be back with Julie Kornack if we're not in the shakeout. So stick with us.
I'm so glad I missed that.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, you know, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Graham-Piché, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but you know, we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, you know, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle. Without that, they wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. You know, we underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're still waiting for the shakeout. It could happen at any moment. But until then, we have with us, as promised, in the studio, Julie Kornack. She's a policy analyst, and she's here today to talk with us about the Affordable Health Care Act and what it's going to mean to us and how we find out more information. You've got some exciting things to tell people about how they can find out information. I'm so thrilled.
Well, it's great to be here.
Thank you.
First, if you're looking for information, we have on the CARD website, the centerforautism.com. You can go there and click on the Affordable Care Act banner and get to pick your state, and you can find out which policies are covered and whether your state's exchange, which is the thing created by Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, which states are offering autism coverage through their state exchange. So you'll be able to, it's sort of a one-stop place to figure out whether your state is participating.
Wonderful. And you mentioned that there are even warnings that there might be a grandfather clause on your policy, or it might be self-funded on all this.
Every state's a little different in terms of which policies are covered by their mandates, and then of course the Affordable Care Act, well maybe not of course, but the Affordable Care Act only applies to individual policies and small group policies in your state. So while everything is a little bit different from state to state, even if a policy is required to offer autism coverage, if it's a grandfathered plan, that means an old plan that hasn't changed substantially since the mandate came into play, or since the Affordable Care Act, when the Affordable Care Act starts in January for the exchanges, then the grandfathered plans do not have to participate. They have to make a substantial change to their policy to lose their grandfathered status, or they have, there's a timeline, I think it's a couple of years before they have to start participating. And then also, of course, the self-insured plans can do what they want.
Right.
So they are also not subject to the mandates or the Affordable Care Act.
But again, you can go to centerforautism.com.
Yes.
Go to the place where it says Affordable Health Care Act.
Yes, Affordable Care Act.
And okay, and then click on that, and then you can pick your state, and it will detail what's happening for you.
It'll tell you which policies in your state have to offer coverage for autism treatment, and whether your state's exchange is offering autism coverage.
Amazing, amazing resource for all of our viewers. Thank you so much for doing that.
We're excited about it.
I'm excited about it too. So what other information can you give us today? Oh, and the shakeout is starting. So we are now going to duck underneath the desk. Emily's going to play something else, and we'll be back when it's all over. Stick with us. Happy Halloween. We're here today to show you some really easy, healthy recipes that you can make for Halloween with your children. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is make this lovely cauliflower brain. And the ingredients that we need for this, we need some sort of a platter. We need a cauliflower, and we have an organic cauliflower here. Emily, take it away for us.
We have some natural guacamole, some organic salsa, some potato chips, and then some pull-string licorice.
Okay, so those are all the things that we're going to need. Plus, we have a very sharp knife and a spoon. So using the knife and preparing the cauliflower can be something you can do beforehand, before you call the children in, depending on their ages and their skill level. All right, so we're going to pull the leaves off of this and put the pieces away. You can compost them if you do that sort of thing, or just throw them away. You want to remove all of the green. This part might be fun, actually, for the kids. It's a difficult one. I'm just going to slice this part off and pull some more of the green out, because there's no green on the brain. But one key thing here is that we want to slice off just the tip here so that it's going to sit flat like a brain. And this is the point where the kids can be really helpful. If you have it already measured, and that's about 1.5 cups of salt, so whatever size platter you're using, and you can have them dump it right on the plate, and that's a pretty enjoyable part of it. Swish it around. Okay, we can put the cauliflower right in the middle of it. And you can see how easy this is. Super duper easy. Has big impact if you're doing a Halloween party. But it's also having fun with your veggies, something that we want to do with the kids. And we can take the chips. I'm going to let you do that with the licorice while I throw some chips around the plate. And these, by the way, are organic, oven-fried, no-salt chips. You can use whatever you want, but we want to keep this as healthy as possible. And she's laying those laces around so they look like the veins of the brain that has gone bad. You can see it just takes a couple of minutes and you end up with this lovely, delicious, healthy brain for the children to eat. And it looks good on the table too. Tastes good too, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Right now, what we're gonna make are hot dog mummies. These are really fun. You can see our finished ones over here. We only need a few things for this. We need some hot dogs. Right now we're using organic chicken hot dogs that are fully cooked, which is a wonderful thing. We have some mustard. We have some all-natural crescent dough on a plastic sheet that we can roll it out on. We have our rolling pin. I have a little bit of coconut flour, but you can use any kind of flour that you want. This just smells awesome. And we have a sharp knife. So this is the part of the project that we want to be careful around kids. You could use a duller knife or a plastic knife, or do this part yourself when the kids aren't around. But if you open up your refrigerated dough and you roll it out, just throw a little bit of coconut flour onto it so that it doesn't stick as much to the rolling pin, and roll it out so that you can't see the lines anymore. Oh, it smells good, doesn't it? I love the smell of coconut flour. And it bakes really a wonderful scent too into the whole house. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because the great thing about this recipe is that it's very forgiving. If the dough breaks when you're wrapping up the hot dog, it's okay, because the mummy can have lots of different bandages. All right, we're gonna go and just cut through this dough. And they can be different width strips, it doesn't really matter. And you really could do this with a plastic knife. I want to mention too that if you have dietary considerations and you need something to be gluten-free, I did this the other day for my son with a gluten-free pizza crust mix, and it worked the same. I just had to be really careful. I thought that the key to it all was getting the dough really dry while I was rolling it out and cutting it out, and then wetting it before I wrapped it around the dry hot dogs. Okay, so I'm gonna take one hot dog and Emily's gonna take another, and part of the fun of this is that you want to make like a little hat so that there is a place later on to put eyeballs made out of mustard. So you can wrap it around the head, make like a turban for your mummy, and then start to, and you see it broke. Doesn't matter, because it's dough and it can be a separate bandage. It's not a problem. You just wrap it around. The kids love this because they know they're going to get to eat it later on. It's very healthy and a quick dinner that makes it really fun. You just slather it on. And then we're going to bake it for about 12 to 14 minutes at a 350-degree oven. See? Easy. He's got a head. Oh, yours is so much prettier than mine. She's Martha Stewart. Okay, so we're going to put that into the oven. We don't need to do anything else. And I put it on some parchment paper so that I don't have to use any kind of spray or oil or anything and add ingredients. We're going to stick it into the oven, and through magic, this is what they look like when they're done. And the other fun element of this is that then you take the mustard and you can give it to the kids for them to put eyes right on, and Emily's going to do that. Awesome. And if you want bloody mummies, you can include ketchup. So, those are big eyes. The other day when I did this with my son, he wanted to put sliced olives on top of the mustard for eyes. But you can see that these are cute, they're tasty, and really healthy. Those are mummy hot dogs. And you can write Happy Halloween in mustard if you're Martha Stewart. Very good.
All right, we're gonna move on to some spooky spider cupcakes. So what you're gonna wanna do is bake a box of regular brand cupcake, or they have gluten-free, sugar-free options as well.
Awesome ones, yes.
Which are great. I pre-made these cupcakes standard. Cupcake rules apply. You'll need some eggs and some oil and water. But we've gone ahead and done that already. So what you wanna do is take some chocolate frosting, and we're gonna frost our cupcake with a thin layer. Doesn't need to be too crazy.
Ooh.
Yes.
Smells good too.
Does smell good. And then we brought some blue sprinkles, and these are naturally colored with vegetable juice, correct?
Vegetable juice, blue.
Which is fantastic. And so these are blue, and then we're gonna just sprinkle the top of our cupcake here.
Awesome.
For eyes, I just got some jelly beans here of different colors. You can use M&Ms or whatever you're more comfortable using. And all you want to do is split your jelly bean in half. So there's your eyeball, Shannon.
Awesome.
I'll have orange eyes on mine. And then you're just going to place them in the front of the cupcake. And then for their little scary legs, we've got some pull and peel Twizzler here, but they also sell natural candy rope, which you can use as well. So then we're just going to pull off our little legs, and the cupcakes are soft enough where you can actually stick the little leg right into it.
And you're just jamming them down?
Just jam them in there.
Alrighty. Ooh, look at that leg.
And this is a good time to teach your kids about bugs and that they have 8 legs.
That's a great thing to add to the lesson. And you know, there's lots of different other things too. Like I have frosting on my hands, and sometimes kids don't like that. It's a flexibility issue. But this is a wonderful way in which to work on those things so that, you know, they can take those skills with them later on. If it's at home and it's a little bit of frosting with you, it's a little bit more reinforcing because it tastes good than if they're on the schoolyard and it's mud and things like that.
And then once you're done, you have your little 8-legged friend.
Mine looks like he needs a haircut, but but they're very fun and they taste good, and the kids will enjoy working on these.
That's right, and they're super cute.
They are. And that's Halloween. Healthy and fast and fun.
Say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to another What's Left in Cooking Friendly for Kids with Allergies. And what we're going to make today is a pizza crust. We got lots of emails, and I really appreciate all the feedback. A lot of folks have been asking about what pizza crust is yeast-free, no eggs, and no gluten and all the other fun stuff. So we're going to take that challenge head on, and if anyone who likes New York type style thin crust pizza, ooh, that's what we're going for today. We're going to start with 1.5 cups of almond flour. Now for folks who have allergies with nuts, there's a great bread pizza crust mix from Anna's that I really like. It's another great alternative for people who are avoiding a lot of carbs and sugars. So I like this one as well. So Jamie's going to get the flaxseed meal going, and now let's talk about the starches. What's really important about this recipe to get that crisp New York style pizza crust is arrowroot. I love arrowroot starch. It has a lot to offer for binding and pulling this recipe together. And I also have my coconut oil. I'm a big fan of coconut oil. You've heard me talk about that many times. Next, we're going to add in our spices. I like a little spices. If you've got a kid that doesn't like spices, it's okay, but I've gone really light in the oregano and basil. So we're going to go ahead and add that in with the baking soda. And for folks who like a little sweetness, I do like maple syrup a lot. But you can just add just a wee bit for flavor. I use typically maybe ½ a teaspoon. So what's great about what Jamie's helping me with now, it's great for kids that have digestive issues. It gives a great deal of fiber and also allows a binding, like what you would look for in a gluten flour. This is a great gluten-free option. And this is a modified recipe from the website Real Sustenance. I love those guys. They do a great job, but I always like to tweak things, but appreciate them. Shout out. So we're ready to roll out our pizza crust. I'm so excited, Jamie. This tastes really good. We're going to get the pizza crust going and the pizza toppings ready as well. So all I'm doing with the pizza crust is laying down some of my great parchment, unbleached parchment paper. And scare your husband with the rolling pin. That's always good times. So we're just going to real simply roll this thing out. You really want it to be as thin as possible. And it's really all a matter of preference as to how thin you want it to be. This is not a really good thick crust. So that looks good. So I'm just going to go and outline my pizza crust so it's going to look a little prettier when I take it out of the oven. So don't be afraid of the rolling pin. Your husband can be afraid of the rolling pin, but you don't need to be afraid. This is why you got to love parchment paper. And here we go. We're going to pre-cook this at 350 for about 22 minutes. Look at this pizza crust. It's not totally cooked yet, so that's okay because we're going to add our toppings to this. Most of us have a can of organic tomato sauce in our pantry. So all I'm doing is adding in just a smidge, okay, a quarter teaspoon of oregano. A smidge doesn't work in measurement. A quarter teaspoon of basil. And a wee bit of salt. Okay, a quarter teaspoon of salt. And for kids who are really sensitive to tomatoes, this is great because you can make it as fine as you want it to be. And that's great. That smells good. So if you want to cheat, you can use this puree. I like to take the roasted tomatoes, which is great, and push this around on my pizza crust. I know I use my fingers.
That's the only way to make pizza.
Exactly.
It's made with love. Kids love helping to make pizza too because they feel really involved in it. And they get to put however much they want of things. So
yeah.
Good family affair.
And we love the Daya cheese. It goes on pretty much almost everything in my house. I'm going to go ahead and add the Daya cheese here. Too much cheese makes it a little soggy. So you may want to cook it a little longer and have it get a little bubblier. We're also using some organic sausage. This is the sweet Italian sausage, and the more, the better. And then we're going to add our sliced back olives. I love olives, but again, if you've got a kid that likes pepperoni, there's a great nitrate-free pepperoni from Boar's Hill. There's our pizza, ready to go in the oven. I'm ready. Let's do this. Our pizza's in the oven at 400 degrees. You can go anywhere from about 25 to 30 minutes, but again, you really want it bubbly and cooked. If you put it at a higher temperature, the fake cheese doesn't like that and it can scald. Your kid's gonna love you for such a great pizza. We'll see you next time on What's Left. If you have any questions, please email us at autismlive@gmail.com, or you can hit facebook.com/autismlive, or go to the TACA website at TACANOW, TACANOW. There's thousands of recipes waiting for you to enjoy. We'll see you next time at Autism Live. What's next?
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have survived the Great American Shakeout. We shook, we walked, we went downstairs, we evacuated, all is well. I hope you guys will try that at home. Just have a fire drill at some point today and make it fun. It really helps in an emergency when people automatically know where to go. Then you don't have to think. We are here in the studio, though, right now with the fabulous Julie Kornack. She is a policy analyst, and we're so thrilled to have her here. She had just been going over with us the fact that you can go to the centerforautism.com, click on the Affordable Care Act. It's a tab there on the main webpage, and you can go to follow that link. It will take you to a place where you pick the state that you live in, and it will detail what you need to know.
Yes, it'll tell you which policies are offering autism coverage.
Really fascinating. And we had a question that came in for you, Julie.
Okay.
How do I find out if my husband's insurance will cover ABA next year? They sent home his open enrollment book, and I don't see anything about it in here. Is the book they send more a watered-down version of what they offer? They have previously opted out of insurance, but we were in Virginia, and from what I've researched, some things have changed with ABA coverage. I did try to call Optima, but the woman was no help. So this person can go.
It's a great example. Well, it depends. You know, I don't know enough about her, just being in Virginia, if her company is a small company or a large company, if it's self-funded.
Right.
So it's impossible, but it should be that she should be able to, or her husband can go to his human Human Resources Department and find out through them whether autism treatment is covered, since Optima wasn't helpful.
Okay, but she can also go to the CARD site,
She can
click
go
that
to the
tab,
CARD site
go to the Virginia
if
site.
she knows whether her husband's plan is self-funded or a large group plan, that kind of thing. She can, if she understands what it is, then she can go and click on Virginia and find out whether they have to offer the coverage.
What Optima?
Yeah, but Virginia, I don't think, is participating. Their state exchanges are not offering autism treatment, so it would be through exactly. So I have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that that's one of the sad. Yeah, Virginia's not offering it through the state exchange.
I went on the California. I tried to go on the California exchange to just get a look-see and to
Covered
see
California.
Yeah,
yeah,
and I couldn't get on. Because there were so many people. It was in the first 3 days. There were so many people, and it said,
the traffic has subsided a lot, so it should be easier to get on. One of the other things that you can do that not everybody is aware of, the Kaiser Family Foundation has a little interactive thing where you can plug in your income and that sort of thing and see if you qualify for subsidies and what your cost sharing would be and that sort of thing.
Wow.
And that is a little secret, so you might want to go to kaiserfamilyfoundation.com and take a look at what they're offering there. It doesn't give you specific information about your state, but it starts to let you know what the cost might be for you, or what, there's a lot of information out there. People, you don't, and if you should be able to get onto your state's exchange now, though.
Okay.
The traffic has really subsided.
But once we go there, what should we be looking for?
Well, there's a lot of decisions to make. So first of all, when we're talking about autism coverage, you want to know whether your state is offering it through the exchange and whether you qualify for it. So if you are not employed or your employer doesn't offer insurance, then you absolutely can go and get insurance through the exchange. Once you get to the exchange, how much help you qualify for is based on your income. Okay. And interestingly, there's 4 different levels of insurance coverage that you can have, where they call them metal levels. So they're doing bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And the fancier the metal, the more of your care is covered. So at platinum, your care is covered at 90%. At gold, it's 80%, and then 70%, and then 60%. But only the silver plans, only the 70% coverage, those are the only plans where you can get help, where you can get the tax subsidies and the cost-sharing help.
Really?
So those are probably going to be the most popular plans for the people who are able to get who financially qualify for the help.
And so when I go to what you have created on the CARD website, is it going to say to me, if I look up Arkansas, is it going to say if the silver plan includes behavioral health?
Exactly. It's going to say if you go on whether your state exchange is offering autism coverage.
Wow.
So any of the plans on the exchange will offer coverage or will not offer coverage. They all offer the same thing. It's just the level of coverage that's different.
Okay. That's pretty remarkable, Julie. Yeah. That is such a service to our community that you put that together. Thank you so much for doing that.
We're happy to do it.
Because there's so much, and whenever people call in or write in, I keep saying it's not a level playing field. You're going to have to ask certain questions, but what a great place to start.
It's a good start, at least to see what you have a right to. What's in your state, and maybe you'll need to move. If you're in the wrong state, that's sometimes our best advice to people. I mean, that sounds, extreme, but really sometimes that's the solution.
And I think that our audience gets that.
Yeah.
You could say that to a bunch of other people and they wouldn't get it, but if it's the difference of getting your child the care that they need and being able to afford it,
right.
I think there are a lot of autism parents who would look to moving to another state.
And I think it's true for any health issue that you're addressing, especially for your child, especially, where you just do what you need to do. That might be, if you're in South Dakota, move.
But I must say too, talk to your legislators about it too, as you're going, and say I'm leaving because of this, and let the legislators know where you're going. I'm coming because of this.
Yeah.
And at some point, we all need to talk to our federal legislators about the fact that it shouldn't be this way.
It shouldn't be this way.
There should be a federal mandate there was supposed to be a federal mandate.
Well, the Affordable Care Act was supposed to include treatment for autism as one of the defined benefits. So it's unfortunate that
it's very unfortunate.
But that's all for healthcare is politicized in this country, and that's one of the sad facts.
Yes. Well, I thank you so much for being here and for having done this beautiful piece of work where people can go and plug in which state they're in and get some real answers so that they can begin to figure out what to do. Thank you so much.
We're very excited to be able to offer it, and please go to the website and see if you qualify and get the coverage that you need.
CenterForAutism.com. Click on the Affordable Healthcare tab.
Affordable Care Act banner. Yeah,
Okay.
you'll see it right there on the homepage.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Angela Persicke is going to be joining us. She's going to be talking about how we bully-proof our kids. You're not going to want to miss it. Stick with us.
Hi everyone. In the cold winter months, it can be really nice to sit down and enjoy a nice, warm apple crisp. And thanks to Breads from Anna, we can make one for you gluten and yeast-free. So let's go over what we're going to need. To make the filling, you're going to need 1½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, 7 cups of Granny Smith apples, and 3 tablespoons of Breads from Anna pie crust. For your topping, you're going to need 1 cup of rolled oats, 1/3 cup of brown sugar, 3/4 of a cup of Breads from Anna pie crust mix, 3/4 of a cup of butter melted, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1 tablespoon vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of water. Don't forget to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So now let's cut some apples. We're going to peel and slice 6 apples. So as you're cutting your apples, make sure you add your lemon juice to make sure that they don't brown and oxidize. So once all my apples are cut and sliced, I'm going to go ahead and add the nutmeg, cinnamon, and the pie crust mix. We're just going to stir these together. So we've got a 13 by 9, and we're just going to spray this with a little bit of grapeseed oil. And then we're going to pour our apples into the dish. And to make our topping, we're just going to combine the rest of the ingredients in a small bowl. All right, that looks pretty good. We're just going to pour this evenly over the top of the apples, and we should be good to go. All right, this is ready to bake, 30 to 35 minutes at 350 degrees. It's been 30 minutes, so our crisp should be all done. All right, it's pretty hot, so you would probably want to let it sit for a little while, but we're going to go ahead and serve up a slice here. To learn how you can win free mix from Breads from Anna, visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/autism-live. See you soon.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have a new partnership that we're unveiling today with the Autism Daily Newscast. They're a wonderful organization that provides up-to-the-minute news on a daily basis, and you can find them at newscast.com. And our story today is about the prevalence of autism. This is written by Shannon Ellis, and here's their story. With 1 in 88 children in the U.S. and 1 in every 100 being diagnosed with autism in the UK, the debate has been raging in the media whether the number of children with autism is, as it seems to be, on the rise, or if it's improvements in diagnostic tools that is accountable for this dramatic rise. They quote Mark Twain, the famous author, as saying, "There are lies, damn lies, and then there are statistics." The story goes on to report that it seems that every health board in every district of the evolving world wants to put a number on the amount of children diagnosed with some form of autism or ASD. Is it really a case of more children being born per annum with autistic traits, or has the world of modern medicine actually evolved to detect autistic traits earlier and more effectively than ever before. It is true that the statistics have risen sharply between 1996 and 2013, but so has the interest, funding, and understanding of life sciences. Scientists now better understand genetics than they did even 10 years ago. Also, many sub-branches of ASD have been identified, which all fit under the umbrella terms of autistic spectrum, which never existed until the late 1990s. But some scientists believe that it is actually on the rise. Thomas Insel, the director of the National Institute of Mental Health, David Amaral, a research director at the Mind Institute at the University of California, Davis, Peter Bierman, a social sciences professor at Columbia University, have all come out in direct support of the idea that autism really is occurring more commonly in children. Dr. Insel was quoted at a recent autism convention saying, without being able to explain the other half of the numbers, the growth of numbers, most of us are left with the conclusion that there really is an increase. If you'd like to know more about this story and read the full article, we encourage you to go to www.autismdailynewscast.com. As I mentioned, they have up-to-the-minute news stories relating to autism on their site, and you can also get them on the Apple Network. We welcome them as a partner to the newscast and look forward to bringing you stories featured on their site on a daily basis. We're going to take a small break, and we'll be back with Angela Persicke talking about how to bully-proof our children. Stick with us.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet. Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism, and now you get to ask her questions every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here with the fabulous board-certified behavior analyst, Angela Persicke, and we have asked her, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
We haven't had you for a while because we've been on a little bit of a break, but we've asked you today to come and talk to us about bully-proofing our kids and how important that is. So what words of wisdom can you give us about how we make this happen?
Yeah, well, first of all, just from what research shows that children with autism are 4 times more likely to be victimized by other peers in these types of situations where they are bullied and taken advantage of, mostly. And so there are certain skills that you can teach your kids, especially if they're at a point where they are integrated a lot with their neurotypical peers in regular classrooms, and that's where you'll see a lot of this victimization occur a lot. And most of the time you'll see it with children who have difficulties understanding that the literal meaning of something a person says may be different from the figurative meaning of it, and that there are certain things that people say that actually don't mean what we think they mean on the surface. And so this non-literal language ability is something that's really prevalent among just conversational skills, so like the use of sarcasm and metaphorical language, and our children have difficulty in this area. So starting out with just some basic training tools of teaching your children that sometimes people don't mean what they say, and that the skills curriculum has wonderful illustrations of this, where you have a person with like a thought bubble, and then what they're actually saying over here, and then maybe what they're feeling too. So maybe if a person sees a spider, but there's I think I've used this example before, but there's maybe someone else, another friend nearby, and they don't want to look scared, but they feel scared. They're saying, oh, that spider doesn't scare me, but they're thinking, I really want to run away. So using illustrations like this to help our children understand that sometimes what people say isn't what they mean. Also,
with deception. Our children are taken advantage of a lot using deception. So just telling them things like, you can't play because you don't have brown hair, or something like that. That's very common with younger children especially, and because our children take everything so literally, they just assume that that's true. Oh, I guess I can't play. And they get their feelings hurt, and they get taken advantage of and left out of a lot of situations because of that. So teaching our kids also that sometimes you need to look at what the person says and how it relates to what you're actually doing in the context. So if it's a game the child is played before and has been able to play before, to question that kind of statement of why would I not be able to play now? And also to ask other people, so teachers nearby, is there a reason I can't play this game, and something like that. And also protecting themselves from people taking their possessions too, because this happens all the time with our kids, where people will lie to them and say, oh, no, this is supposed to be mine, so I'm just going to take it home with me. Or even saying, because you're my friend, you should give me your comic book, or something like that. So a lot to do with understanding that what people say isn't really always what they mean.
And these are skills that we can be in control of and help our children to gain, so that they are less likely to be bullied.
Yes.
It's like building the tool chest.
Exactly. And then in another case, a lot of teasing, especially when children get into high school, even middle school, is teasing more. But it crosses from just teasing and bantering with friends to this really verbal bullying. And this teasing, if you look at it from the standpoint of, from a behavior analytics standpoint, we're seeing what the bully gets out of teasing people in this way. So you want to see what kind of reaction is your child giving when people start to tease him or her. And a lot of times you'll see that the child gets very upset, maybe even cries, fights back. And these are often, like, even though it's our first reaction, this is how we want to respond, because it hurts. You know, it hurts us and it hurts our kids, and so they want to respond this way. But it's the reaction a lot of times that the bully, that's the paycheck for the bully, is the reaction. So teaching your kids too that when people say these things, different things to do to not give that reaction. And a lot of times when you see kids who aren't affected by these type of teasing situations as much, they'll do things like, oh, whatever, you know, and walk away.
In fact, I want to talk a little bit more about that, but we should take a break. So when we come back, we're gonna talk about these strategies for these verbal teasing things and how we can bully-proof our kids. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tacs, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here right now with BCBA Board Certified Behavior Analyst Angela Persicke. We're talking with Angela about bullying and when our kids are being verbally teased and what our kids can do to bully-proof themselves from this kind of behavior. So tell us some strategies.
So to talk about it again a little bit, verbal teasing, often there's a paycheck for the bully of getting a reaction out of our kids or other people for that matter. So when we are looking at it from a behavior analytic viewpoint, we look at the consequences of people's behavior, and that's what we try to modify. And so what we're looking at here is how to not get that bully the paycheck. And so you want to teach your kids to do other things besides just react. And sometimes this is really hard because there's that emotional component of just wanting to lash out at this person that's making fun of you and saying these mean things to you.
But sometimes that is the paycheck.
Exactly.
That you've lashed out. They saw that they got under your skin and you've reacted.
Exactly. And so some of the things that some studies have been conducted on what typical neurotypical individuals do in these situations, especially the ones who aren't victimized as much. And it seems like what they do is they respond in a way that doesn't give a reaction. So when they said, where did you get your outfit today? That's awful, or something like that. And then the person will say, oh, whatever, I like it, and then just walk away. Right. So they'll give some almost sarcastic, nonchalant type of response that shows that they're not reacting to the situation. And this is a little bit different from what you typically see, where people are like, oh, just don't say anything, walk away and go tell a teacher or something like that. But that could actually cause more bullying.
Yes.
If like, then you're like a tattletale or whatever, you're always running to someone else, and it doesn't get you away from this bullying behavior. So really you want to teach your child when that happens, and practice at home. Yeah. Practice that kind of verbal banter back and forth that gets elevated too far, and then what your child should do in those situations. And that's really just to not react, say something that makes it seem like it doesn't matter, and then walk away.
Absolutely. It's great advice. Of course, we want our kids to tell us, though, if it's happening, because we want to be able to monitor it. So it's okay for them to tell us, but great advice for how they react in the moment to diminish it or get rid of it. Really important that we bully-proof our kids. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got a question from a viewer that's come in that we want. And if you have any questions about bullying that you want Angela to talk a little bit more, send them in to us right now. Stick with us.
Hi, I'm Bryce Myler, and I'm the Contracts Director for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I've been here for about 5 years. CARD has several employees with many years of insurance experience, dealing with insurance, dealing with pre-authorizations, dealing with discovering whether there's coverage or not. So we have more experience than any ABA provider that I've ever come across. So for a prospective client, somebody that may be interested in, ABA therapy and what CARD has to offer, We have a special 800 number, and you call that number. They will talk to you about what we have to offer, how ABA works. He'll ask you for the front and back of your ID card, and then we check to see if you do or do not have coverage. If you have coverage for ABA therapy, we try to do whatever we can to set it up where we can bill for you and you don't have to fight with the insurance company every month to get your claims paid. For California residents, we recently did a series of insurance trainings all over the state, and you can click on the link below to watch pretty much the full presentation. It has a lot of information, how you can get your insurance company to comply with what they're supposed to do, understanding the networks, and many other valuable pieces of information.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our special guest in the studio with us right now is Angela Persicke. She is a board-certified behavior analyst, and she has extensive experience working with children on the autism spectrum. She is also the assistant director, am I right, of the Autism Research Group.
Correct.
Fabulous. And somebody wrote in a question that we're going to ask Angela right now. My son is almost 3 and is still nonverbal, meaning that he has no words at all. He does, however, make several sounds consistently, mostly vowel sounds. He also seems to have a very limited receptive vocabulary. At this point, he is still unable to follow one-step directions. He has received speech therapy, occupational therapy since 18 months, and he is in a full-time school receiving ABA therapy. My question is, how often do you see this in kids with ASD? Is this common? Are there any studies showing that it is likely that he will still at one point talk? Communication is his biggest delay. He has made incredible progress in all other areas, including social interaction and sensory processing issues. Are there any tips that you may have to help him in this area? Do you believe that it's necessary to have speech therapy in addition to full-time ABA? Also, we have tried sign language, however, unsuccessful. A big, long question. So, should we start with the first one about, is this common? A 3-year-old who's making vowel sounds but not yet having words and doesn't have great receptive skills.
Yes, I've seen this quite often, and I'm not sure of the statistics on it exactly, but yes, this is more common within children with autism, that you will not see a lot of vocal communication even by the age of 4. But there have been some studies conducted more recently where they have looked at children who don't have any vocal language or phrase speech by the age of 4 and compared it to 3 years later when they are 7 years old to see how many of these children actually develop single word or phrase speech. And if I remember correctly, it's about 70% of the children who had no phrase speech by the age of 4 developed phrase speech by the age of 7. So there's hope. And it is possible. Some strategies you can use. It is very, it's encouraging that your child is making some babbling sounds, even just the vowel sounds, but some babbling types of sounds. What we often do is begin by reinforcing any occurrence of any sound at first. So really using something that's highly preferred for your child, and anytime your child engages in some type of sound, providing that reinforcing item. And if you keep track of how many vocalizations occur throughout the day, you'll start to see those increase. And then once you start to see those increase, then you can start to pair those with preferred items which have the same sound to them. And you'll start to pair them with items and then increase to more approximations of the actual item too. So if you're looking at something like saying "ba" for bubbles, you'll start with "ba" and reinforce "ba," 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 and then start to reinforce "bub," bub, bub, and then increase that until you get to bubbles. And this is more of a long process, so it takes a long time, and don't expect it to happen overnight. But right now you can begin by just reinforcing any occurrence of a vocalization.
Yeah, and this question about, we've had this several times recently about, do we want to be continuing speech therapy at the same time that we're doing ABA? And I know we've had a lot of people weigh in on this, and it seems like to me as a parent that there are different issues that are being addressed in both of those things. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, you know, very likely having both of them is beneficial. So really important to remember that. But you're doing a great job. One other thing that I want to address is that the sign language thing didn't work out, but there are lots of other things that you can do for functional communication besides sign language. Sign language is pretty intricate, and a child has to have a certain amount of fine motor to be able to do sign language, so it's a lot more advanced than some of the other functional communication systems.
Yeah, the other selection-based systems where the child has to select either an icon or something from a list on an iPad or something like that, those, as you may be able to tell, just involve the child reaching for and identifying something, so clicking on something or picking up something. And those skills are a lot easier for our children who have these fine motor deficits than to create these signs as well. So there are different methods that may work for your child over sign language. PECS is one of those as well. The one thing you want to make sure you do with any of these other systems, though, is to continue to pair a sound with whatever icon or even with sign language. And that's sometimes why we see sign language not work too well, is because people have a tendency to stop pairing the sound. So if you're using the more sign, you want to try to pair the at least the sound with that too.
And rewarding that. All right, great. Good luck. The odds are with you. So keep the faith, and also make sure, I know you say that they're getting ABA, full-time school with ABA. Make sure that it's good quality ABA. Make sure that they are doing these things that Angela is talking about, pairing sounds and rewarding for approximations. Make sure that they're doing that. If they have questions about what they should be doing, they can be using the skills. There are many facilities, schools that are using the skills curriculum, and they can have access to that to do that. But make sure that that time isn't being wasted, that they're working on developing functional communication and speech, don't you think? Okay. All right, we're going to take another break, come back, and we've got another lengthy question from a parent just written in about some stuff happening in inclusion that really breaks my heart. So stick with us. We're going to address this in just a minute. Hi, we're here with Temple Grandin, and we're going to be asking her some of your questions that you guys have written into us. First of all, Temple, I want to thank you for being with us here today.
No, it's good to be here.
This is a question that I want to know. When you went to the Emmys and you went to all these different events and you were there in your wonderful shirt, was there anybody who tried to talk you into wearing something else, or did they just understand that you needed to be who you were?
Well, I think being eccentric is just fine. I dressed eccentric at the Emmys. Eccentric's fine. Being a filthy slob is not fine. Let's look at the latest Mars rover. You got the Mohawk guy that's the head of the expedition. You got the Elvis guy that figured out how to land on the moon, and he wears Elvis outfits. I think that's just fine. But you can't be a rude, filthy, dirty slob. That's the thing where draw the line. Eccentric's fine. I remember a guy who was on the spectrum, and he taught astronomy at a local college. And he had beautiful astronomy t-shirts, and he had long hair with a ponytail this long. And I said to him, don't let anybody cut your ponytail off. You know, wear it with pride, but it must be washed and it must be clean.
There you
and
go.
Neat.
Love it. Did they try to talk you into wearing a dress, or they
Oh no, nobody knew I would wear a dress. I got too much of a farmer tan and would just look just terrible. No, you're not going to get me in an evening gown. I did buy some new black pants. I'm going to wear it tonight.
Well, I thought you looked great.
Well, I want to let you know about the shirt award of the Emmys.
Yeah.
That was a Ralph Lauren shirt.
There
okay,
you go.
fashion snobs. And that was a gift from my sister for Christmas.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here with BCBA Board Certified Behavior Analyst Angela Persicke. We've got a question that just came in. We don't have very much time, so we're going to try to address this. I want to know what I can do to change this. It does not feel right. My child, 6, recently added to a mainstream class with a one-on-one aide. Yesterday, during class observation, she was placed in a corner with her desk due to some disturbing behaviors, which were minimal. The teacher did not make eye contact with her, did not get her attention at any time. She had different color folders than peers. Peers were facing with their backs to her desk due to the position. The smartboard was not so clear due to her desk position. Is this what we expect to deal with in inclusion? How can I make this to change? It was insulting, humiliating. Note, her teacher does interact with all except with my child. Also, she raised her hand several times and she was not called on. I'm in tears. So frustrating. Thanks for your advice. She went on to add her desk was placed aside from a whole class group and that her seat because and that is her seat because she is different. They're asking. Please help me here. I am beyond confused. This is harder than special ed issues. So heart-wrenching. I've got stuff I want to add. You want to go first? Do you want me to go?
You can go ahead.
All right. Okay. Probably this is a teacher who doesn't know what she's supposed to do. And she might mean well, maybe this is her first time, maybe it's her 5th time, but she doesn't know what to do. And it's frustrating, it's upsetting, but that's not gonna change it, being frustrated and upset, right? I would encourage you to call an emergency IEP meeting because this is not right. This is not what you should expect. This is not how inclusion works. I would stay as nice as you possibly can and just say, you know, we need to address in the IEP where she's sitting in the classroom. When the aide is responsible, when the teacher is responsible, the teacher may think that the aide is supposed to do the instruction because she may have had that happen before with another student who had different needs. That's not what your daughter needs. And so in a very nice way, make sure you request a tape, that you're going to bring a tape recorder to the meeting and hash it all out. Get it written into the IEP that she has to have visual sighting of that whiteboard and be included with the other kids, and that they cannot discriminate with different folder colors. Be much nicer than I'm being right now. I'm outraged with you, but you know, you'll have it all together emotionally day of to say, you know, very nicely, I want it in the IEP that her folders are the same color and they're you know, just get it written in. And then it's a legal document, they'll have to comply with it. Also, clearly define what the responsibility of the one-on-one aide is. And I would offer to give this teacher some IBT training, Institute for Behavioral Training, so she can learn how to include a child on the spectrum in her classroom, because clearly she doesn't know. And she might be well-meaning, maybe somebody has told her this is the way to do it. She's wrong, and you can't let it stay.
Yes, and not only all those things, but also if there are some disturbing or distracting behaviors, the BIP needs to be written if it's not already written, and that needs to be implemented, and the teacher needs to be trained, as well as all the aides in the classroom, on how to implement that BIP for those specific behaviors, or it could just get worse.
Right. So, thank you so much for bringing that up, because this was the teacher's reaction. They saw some disturbing behavior, so this was her reaction. If you have a BIP, a behavior intervention plan, that says when she does this minimal disturbing behavior, this is how we react, she won't be able to move her into the corner. Legally, she won't be able to. But it's going to take an emergency IEP meeting. Make sure you put it in writing. Get it off to them in email. I would today, and make sure that they schedule it within the week, man, because it's not okay. Be as nice as you can for as long as you can. If you get pushback from them, call us back, because it's, you know, you shouldn't. This is wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
Yeah, and this is not what you should expect from an inclusion classroom at all. And teachers who know what they should be doing and have been trained on it will do the right thing, and it will be a very great situation for everybody.
Absolutely. All right, we are almost out of time here, so I want to start by thanking you for being here and for waiting so long as we did the shakeout. Angela was supposed to be on much earlier, and that didn't work out. Also, also want to remind you, tomorrow we've got a really exciting show for you. Dr. Adele Nadowski is going to be here, and she's going to be talking about what we need to do to prepare the people who work with our kids so that we don't have problems with a child escaping from an aid and escaping from the school. We've been talking about the Avante story in the subways of New York, and as parents, we have to find how we can take action to help prepare our aides so that our kids do not elope from school, steps we can take. She's going to be talking about that with us. Then a little bit later on in the program, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox is going to be here with us answering your questions and talking about recent developments in research. You can ask questions of either Dr. Nadowski or Dr. Tarbox throughout the night that will be ready for us here in the morning, or you can just tune in live. So all of those things happening tomorrow. We've got some exciting things happening next week too that I want to bring to your attention, that next week we're focusing on technology. So if there's something in particular that you enjoy using that involves technology, either yourself or that your child on the spectrum likes to use, or your teenager, your adult on the spectrum likes to use, write in and tell us. We'd like to showcase it here on the show and let everybody know about some of the different things, how technology is helping to hack autism, as they say. So write into us. That's going to be all of next week. I want to thank all of our guests for being on the show today. It was wonderful to have Matt Asner, Julie Kornack. Make sure that you check out on the CARD website, centerforautism.com, Affordable Care Act, so that you can find out what your status is in your state. And thank you to Angela Persicke. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.